Hello. Hello, this is the My Artifact episode number 3704. Today's date is November 15, 2025. It's been almost like a night at exactly 10 p.m. Alright, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Alright, the question is, what if love was a tangible force? Oh, that is a really good question. Alright, yeah. First of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? This is what if question. Why am I asking this question to myself? What if question is always really interested way to give the answer. It kind of like a force you to think about that reality. And when we try to think about that reality, I kind of like a feel really good. Like think about that reality means what? Like basically is this thing na, ki when I try to create that reality regarding about the question that it asks, I kind of like use my kind of like information and knowledge to kind of like construct that reality to get it. And when I try to use this information, use this knowledge and things like that, it somehow something felt good. It somehow something felt like really amazing. It felt something that key awesome and stuff like that. Okay. So that's how I'm kind of like asking this question. Alright. Disclaimer, the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right or is not exactly wrong either. It is raw, it is unfiltered, it is just my opinion. Okay. So do not believe in any kind of like information that I'm saying, or do not seek for any kind of like information that I'm saying. If you need any kind of like valid information, you just have to go to the internet and you will get the very valid information. I'm just providing my opinion, and opinion are subjective. Alright, so let's just proceed further. Now regarding about the question says, what if love was a tangible force? First of all, what is exactly a tangible force? A tangible force means there is some sort of kind of like some force. Let's just say that key a kind of like some gravity that you are feeling right now. Okay, yeah. Where you are standing on this planet. Okay, yeah. Just jump, you come back. That is called gravity. Okay, yeah. Magnets. When two magnets are trying to kind of like assembly close together, they are kind of like trying to stick with it. They have kind of like some sort of force are kind of like something meant to be stick with each other. Okay, yeah. This is called kind of like some sort of force and things like that. So take an example like this, a magnet. Okay, yeah. When two people are kind of like fall in love with each other, instead of their love is kind of like act like a kind of like assembly of magnets. Okay, yeah. So what if would be that reality? What if kind of like assembly love is a kind of like assembly a tangible force, or kind of like a force that we could see, we could feel, we could sense, not sense but feel, a kind of like a measure. Probably measure would be really good. Okay, yeah. So what would be that particular world? Let's just imagine, okay, yeah, if we are fall in love, like let's just say I fall in love with particular girl. So in this reality, I might kind of like a feel really good. Okay, yeah. So feel really good means like that ki I might kind of like a glow somehow. Okay, yeah. Like basically when the two people are kind of like a falling in love with each other, they are kind of like a glowing. Okay, yeah. They are glowing in kind of like a somebody just like kind of like a somebody there is some sort of light is actually come out. It's not the kind of like a somebody too much, but kind of like they are glowing. Their entire kind of like a somebody entire kind of like a face and things are kind of like a glowing and things like that. And also they are kind of like a bit more lighter too. Okay, yeah. Somehow something. When kind of like a somebody when girl is kind of like a say I love you to the boy, then boy kind of like a feel kind of like a some sort of a strong magnetic force towards her. And I would kind of like somebody like basically it's kind of like a force that I would kind of like when like she's kind of like a pulling me, that kind of like a force that I'm kind of like a feeling when she was kind of like saying this thing. It kind of like a feel really good. Okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah, if the love is kind of like a tangible force, then this might be a kind of like a things happen. But another thing, okay, yeah, love is not meant to be just boy and girl. Love are meant to be multiple things. Like a mother loves her son, her daughter, okay, her child. A father loves too. Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing then what would be that particular world? How they kind of like look like? Let's just say the mother loves her child. Okay, so basically what would be that particular world? What would be that particular like a how should we supposed to be kind of like a represent that love in this particular context. Does kind of like somebody the mother would kind of like a glowing that because she loves her kids? No, not really that. Okay, yeah, she might not glowing, but she kind of like a have kind of like a somebody um a protection field, probably a kind of like a somebody a spear, like a basically is this thing that ki mother would be kind of like a somebody provide a kind of like a somebody spherical protection towards their child. Okay, yeah, because this is what kind of like a somebody meaning of her love, probably. Okay, yeah. um but each person kind of like a represent love with different contexts. Okay, yeah, and might be kind of like a effect of the like a physical effect might be kind of like a bit more different. Like basically in relationship love, people might be kind of like a glowing. Okay, yeah. In a parent's love, maybe kind of like their love is kind of like a bit more kind of like a care and things like that, like a protection or a kind of like a somebody who force field beyond our like a kind of like a try to protect our child and things like that. Okay, yeah. Then uh I love my country too. So they might have kind of like some very different kind of like some love. Let's just say that I love my country. So probably is this saying that ki my love would be considered kind of like somebody is that ki somebody that ki a powerful things like that. But still, it's very hard to imagine what would be that tangible force, because it's very hard to define what was that. Okay, yeah. A love is a kind of like a somebody express an emotions that we kind of like a represent that with a boy and girl with kind of like a somebody like basically we actually say that na ki when we are falling in love, we are kind of like a somebody in cloud 7 or cloud 9. It kind of like a represent that ki we are kind of like a somebody became so lighter, that's why we are kind of like a went to cloud 7 and cloud 9. Okay, yeah. But this is what kind of like a just a phenomenon. It's just kind of like a somebody just a phrase of term. It's not kind of like a really it actually happened. Okay, yeah. But kind of like if I'm gonna say if I'm gonna mention the love regarding about parents love, then probably we don't really have any kind of like a only phrase for that, because yeah, we love like basically parents loves their child too, but like basically there is no kind of like a context that how would be that particular love would kind of like a look like. Might be kind of like a protection would be, but I'm not really sure about that. Okay, yeah. But if you kind of like a went to the kind of like a something very different things, then might be kind of like a, let's just say I love my country or I love my city or I love my society and things like that. Then how do you supposed to represent that particular love? It's very hard to imagine that particular context. Okay, yeah. But also another thing is that ki love is a kind of like some emotion, and with that emotion there is a kind of like a physical activity, there is a physical force is actually applied. Okay, yeah. Now there are multiple kind of like emotions that we have kind of like a somebody kind of like a angry sadness or things or that. Then what would be that world? Like an example is this thing that ki let's just say two people are kind of like a hate each other, then probably they might kind of like repel, not just repel, they kind of like a somebody create heat, like a create heat with each other when they are kind of like a when two people are kind of like hate each other, and when they are kind of like somebody close to them, they are kind of like somebody burning hot, probably. Okay, yeah. Another thing is that ki let's just say envy. Okay, yeah. Envy means like that ki kind of like jealous and things like that. So probably we might kind of like a some smell of burning. Okay, yeah. Like basically we usually kind of like mention that na I'm really jealous of her and things and that. So might be physical force might be kind of like a look like a burning. Like basically I'm jealous is because of I'm kind of like a burning and things like that. So I'm kind of like a legitly burn in that physical in that particular world. Probably. Okay, yeah. Horny. Okay, yeah. Horny is also kind of like some emotions too. Okay, yeah. And if I feel kind of like some sort of horny, then probably is this thing that ki I don't know what will gonna happen in this particular context, but still might not really good. Because horny is a kind of like a very strong emotion. It kind of like let you do kind of like a something very practical thing, and in this particular context might be things might get very weird. Okay, yeah. What about angry? Angry kind of like a creates a kind of like a somebody heat and kind of like a somebody the heat, yeah, heat between, and then probably kind of like a somebody warm and things like that. Okay, yeah. So kind of like a different emotion kind of like a represent different actions and things like that, or different kind of like assembly force filled kind of like a that, but still it's very hard to imagine what would be that particular world. Okay, but another thing is that now, if like in this particular context, the question actually represent only talk about the love, then let's talk about the love. Okay, so basically this thing, these are kind of like somebody, the force fields actually happen when two people are fall in love, but with respect to time, the love is kind of like a gone. Okay, yeah, like basically existing, the people who like each other at the beginning of the love, after the marriage, after almost like a 30-40 year of relationship, their love become very different, very mellow and things like that. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, the spark that they are kind of like somebody feeling at the early when they are kind of like a started relationship, after 10 year, after 20 year, or after 15 year, probably that spark will gone. Okay, they might not feel that kind of like a somebody tangible energy or things, or maybe they are not kind of like a feel that much kind of like a hit by kind of like a someone says I love you and things like that. Okay, or in this another context, that ki if someone kind of like somebody that ki like basically you what the wait, let me pause here for a while. All right, so what was I saying? Okay, sorry, there is a kind of like somebody, I just have to call somebody, it's very essential call, that's why I kind of like interrupt the artifact, whatever. Okay, I was actually talking about the kind of like a lie. Okay, so in the relationship, kind of like a people lie. Okay, so basically, if I try to think about that reality, if we are kind of like try to think about that reality, in this reality, if when people are kind of like fall in love with each other, they might feel kind of like some sort of force in between us. Okay, what if they lie? Okay, then if they kind of like lie with each other, then probably this might be kind of like a very different context, because of that ki when they lie, then probably it might feel something kind of like some emptiness or things like that. Let's just say that one person is kind of like somebody feeling a little bit of stronger connection, but another person kind of like somebody reject that connection, or kind of like somebody, I don't know how do I supposed to represent that particular context regarding about lie and things like that. Okay, but if is this thing, if the another person kind of like a lie, then probably this person feel that this person kind of like a lying, because that particular person didn't really feel that kind of like a force. Let me give you context. Okay, let's just say that if I kind of like said I love you to someone else. Okay, I also feel that tangible force between me and her, because of that she also says me I love you, I also say I love you. So I kind of like we both feel that kind of like somebody, that particular force in between us. Okay, that kind of like a pulling us together. But if in this particular context, if I kind of like a lie, then probably is this thing that that force will not gonna feel. Example. Okay, let's just say that that particular person loved me. Okay, so she kind of like says me I love you. Okay, now basically is this thing, she also feel the gravity. Okay, that she fall in love, and that's why kind of like she's kind of like a mentioner, because by heart she kind of like love me, but I didn't really love her. Okay, but still I kind of like say I love you. But when I said that thing, I didn't really create that pull. Okay, I didn't really create that kind of like somebody, the force field and things like that. Okay, so she might understand that like basically he was kind of like basically I'm just saying that I love you, but probably she didn't really feel that particular connection. Why? Because of that I didn't really love her by like from bottom of my heart and things like that. So she might gonna understand, no, he didn't really like me that much, so probably we just have to break up and things like that, or might be we shouldn't supposed to proceed further. Okay, so this actually happened at the beginning. So probably is this thing na ki we might not gonna lie in this particular context, because if we lie, then probably other person might not gonna feel that particular field, or kind of like some gravity, or kind of like a pull, or whatever it is. Okay, or force. Okay, so this might be a kind of like a context that probably is this thing that this might be kind of like a things. Okay, we would not gonna lie. Okay, or maybe kind of like somebody lie would be kind of like a very different context. Okay, let's just say that a magnetism kind of like somebody work very differently. Let's just say that at one moment kind of like both our magnet are try to connect with each other, both our magnet are try to attract with each other, but suddenly one magnet are try to attract but another magnet are repel. This actually happen is because of kind of like somebody that suddenly kind of like a mind shift change or kind of like a lie or kind of like a betrayal or things like that. When this thing will gonna happen, then probably this might kind of like a force field will gonna create, and we might gonna kind of like a somebody, yeah. Okay, but it's a very kind of like a vague concept, and probably we might not really understand what would be that particular context, but this would be that. Okay, this would be kind of like a particular thing would be happen probably. Okay, I don't know. I am kind of like talking really fast and things like that, but it's just like that. Yeah, I'm kind of like very much cold here. Okay, yeah, it's really fucking cold. Okay, yeah, and I wanted to kind of like end this artifact quickly as possible as I can because it's fucking cold. All right, yeah. So this is and I should supposed to be end here, and thank you.